So, as a quick FYI, just in case you did not hear the news, like if you only watched this episode of The Promised Neverland and you haven't checked anything on social media or the anime community day, The Promised Neverland Season 2 was officially announced for next year, I think 2020. Now, that seems like a long ways away, because when you really take a moment to think about it, 2019 technically kind of just started. I mean, yes, it's about to be April. Yes, spring of anime 2019 is about to be here in like a week. But even then, though, it's just like, it's not that long. Because, number one, it's good that the series is waiting until 2020 to come out. Because this allows the series to properly be, I guess, produced. For instance, it's not being rushed out. They're not trying to really get it out there instantly to make money. They might have time to actually, produce it and make it higher quality than Season 1 was. So, even though it's a long wait, I'm fine with it. I think many of us can agree it's better late than never. It's better, to wait than never get it in the first place, and it's also better to wait than have a rushed mess that really isn't finished. Like, we don't want a One Punch Man Season 2, do we? I mean, look, let's be real here. One Punch Man Season 2, the reason why it's not doing so well is because of production issues, and we don't want that issue with The Promised Neverland, so I'm just glad. I'm glad to hear about this Season 2 announcement, and I'm kind of glad it's been a little bit delayed until 2020. But okay, anyways, with that out of the way, let's talk about this episode, the finale. What it's about, and what does this mean going forward in this series, at least for the anime onlys. So, Isabella. She's probably one of the most important characters to this episode. I know many probably want me to talk about the escape and how they finally got out. That's very important, yes. But Isabella is a very good piece, like a really important piece to this episode towards the end that kind of wraps up this arc, like the first segment of the story. Because when you think about it, Isabella has been the main antagonist of the story since the beginning. She's been kind of like this big bad that, Emma, Norman, Ray, and all the other children, they had to overcome. She was someone that was the caretaker that had to keep them inside, and she didn't want them to ever leave. Now, as we know from her, POV, she does think about her own safety, her survival. That's the reason why she's done certain things. I mean, she even admits in this episode to Ray, when Ray's like, why was I even born? She's like, I did it for survival. That's why. I did it to be able to survive. Which she basically admits anything she's done after the point when she found out the truth and she became a mama. That's when she just started to fight for her own survival and didn't care about anything else. But it wasn't just that, though. It also was the fact that she was someone that showcased that she cared about the children. She even said to Emma a few episodes back when she broke her leg, like, yes, it's cruel, you all are going to die, but why should you have to suffer within these 12 years of the life you have? You have a limited time on this, world, and, why should you have to suffer and be, traumatized and just scared and all that? You should have a happy life until the very end. And that's kind of what Isabella has been trying to do. You can see in her own twisted way, she's trying to give these children the best life they possibly could have before lights are finally out. And you can kind of view that final segment of, the episode to where she's like, you know what, I give you my farewell, I want you guys to succeed, this is my blessing, go out there and find the light that I wasn't able to actually find. It's kind of like Isabella admitted her defeat, but also how Emma and everybody else found a path that Isabella never thought was possible, which just kind of correlates with her entire character. See, once again, she's an antagonist, but she isn't necessarily outright evil. She was a product of her environment. She was born in this farm, and she was crafted into what she was, thanks to how this farm is operated. And so because of that, it made it to where she wasn't necessarily evil at the start, and you can't even say she's evil at the end of letting these children die. She's a monster, but she didn't do this because she wanted to start doing it. I mean, she had other choices, obviously. She could have tried to be more like Emma, or she could just given up completely and just not even go along with being a mother. But at the end of the day, you gotta remember, at that young of an age, being 11, 12 years old, most people in that dilemma to where they're contemplating, life or death, they're probably going to pick the option of wanting to survive. So you can't really judge Isabella or any of the kids that are at the age of 12 that decide to actually become a mama, because they don't want to die. There's just so much more that they could potentially see or do that they just don't want it to end while their life is finally starting to, get a little bit better, or maybe when they're finally starting to grow up and not just be young like they were and being a little bit more aware. So Isabella having that choice and choosing to live makes perfect sense. It fits in with the mentality of how many people would act or do if they were put in that exact same situation. Now, it doesn't mean that it makes it any better, but Isabella, though, when she admits defeat and you see her past pop up and she reflects on it, she's like, they found something I couldn't do. They did something that I gave up on. She realized that, maybe if she had a little bit more drive, maybe if she had someone to actually help her out, she relied on someone, maybe she could have actually done something. Well, it's clear as day that she didn't. And because of that, that was her fault. That's where she failed at. And that is why she got her blessing at the end. She realized that Emma was able to find something that she never was able to find. And you can see the correlation between Emma and Isabella as well. Isabella, she was very active. She climbed trees, very similar to how Emma is, which kind of goes back to the conversation a few episodes back when Isabella was scouting Emma, like, hey, I can give a recommendation to where you can become a mama. And in that moment, it's very truthful. You can see now, if you were on the fence about it, it's clear as day that Isabella probably was contemplating that and wanting to make Emma into a mama. Because number one, Emma is a really, really smart individual, and she has the strength to be able to probably make this farm work. I mean, if she actually had the drive to survive and all that, she probably could be a scary mother that would probably be one of the best that the farm would have to offer. But as we know, Emma chose her own path, and thanks to persuasion and other things, her morals, she was able to actually choose another path that Isabella was never able to do. But, like I said, though, getting to the main point is that they're very identical, and that was the reason why Isabella was offering a way out for Emma. Why she was like, hey, you can be a mama, I could recommend you and all that, you don't have to suffer, just give up, just let it go. And that was kind of like Isabella admitting, I felt this exact same pain. I know how it feels to lose someone you love, someone you care about, and just lose them instantly. I know how it feels, and because of that, I don't want you to suffer how I suffered, and she's trying to help Emma out in her own twisted way. So it's cool how this finale wraps up Isabella as a character, letting us know why she did certain things she did, but also the connection that Ray had with Isabella, and why Isabella was even willing to work with Ray to begin with. So let's get into that. Just in case you didn't catch that little segment at the end with Ray, it basically downright admitted that Isabella was the true mother of Ray. Ray is the true child to Isabella. And the obvious reason is because he was humming the song that Isabella was humming when she was pregnant with Ray. And remember, a few episodes back, Ray said that he has fragmented memories of when he was literally just like a fetus. When he was inside of his mother, he has fragmented memories, which basically means that he heard the song through his mother, which was Isabella, and that's why he hummed it. And obviously, Isabella recognizing the song, she's like, where'd you hear the song? How? And all that. And then he's like, he knows who Isabella is. That just signified the relationship. And you can see from Isabella's reaction, she started to crack. She showed a side to her that, you wouldn't normally think she would show, because she seemed to be this stone cold monster that was fighting for her survival. But if she truly was a monster, she never would have interacted with Ray. She would never have actually tried to mingle with him and give him special privileges that none of the other children had. For instance, giving him presents and stuff. So Isabella had this parental love for Ray, which makes sense. And it's something that obviously was never meant to happen, because that's the whole point of the farm. See, Ray's condition is just so rare that something like that was just not really meant to happen. It's not something that a mother would ever really recognize or realize at all. They would probably eventually ship off their child, but they wouldn't know. In all honesty, it's actually the farm's fault for even putting Ray in the exact same area as Isabella. It was a very big problem on their part. They should never have done that, because that is what caused everything to kind of go downhill. But granted, there's just no way they would have been able to expect that, but it's still the point. It's just like sometimes mothers can tell who their child is, and in that case, you could kind of assume that they would never have put Ray in the same area as Isabella, unless they're just doing that purposely to try to prove to them, like, your child is nothing, you think your survival is more important than your child. Maybe that's the way they go about it, but it still proves the point there that they kind of made an error on that part, and Isabella showed her humanity by even allowing Ray to continue to operate like he did for all these years. And so, Isabella, she isn't necessarily 100% evil. She has a really sad backstory, and I kind of feel bad for her, because if it would have had a little bit different circumstances, if life would have been a little bit different, she probably would have been even better than, Emma. She would probably been very intelligent, kind of close to Norman, active as Emma. She would have been probably a really good person, a really good mother figure, but obviously that did not happen thanks to what happened, in her life. And now that the children has escaped, it's very clear that Isabella is most likely going to be replaced. It's obvious. I mean, look, Sister Crone was instantly axed, okay? Thanks to the word of Isabella and also the grandma. And now that the children have escaped, basically the higher-ups will be looking at Sister Crone's execution like maybe we were wrong about Sister Crone and we should have listened and then taken out Isabella, but they didn't do that, and obviously it led to these problems. So Isabella, she's definitely on the chopping block. And Grandma is definitely on the chopping block too, since she's technically involved in this and initiated against Sister Crone. So there's a lot of problems. There's going to be probably a major shift inside of the farm that's going to happen that we might not actually get to see. But Isabella, you can kind of see that she resigned herself. She knew everything was done. When she took out, the bow tie or whatever out of her hair, and you see her hair come down, it basically signified that she's just done. She's done. It's over. She knew that in that moment, there's nothing she can do. She knew that her life was pretty much forfeit at that moment. Nothing she says or will do will ever make up for that, because once they step foot outside of the walls, it was over. That's a failure that she cannot come back from. And it doesn't just stop there. Because she knows that her life was over, she could have been petty. She could have tried to actually, stop Emma and them and followed or whatever, but instead of actually trying to do anything, she decided to reel back in the ropes that were cut away from the group when the children escaping. She reeled them back in and she hid them, which basically showed that Isabella, she could have potentially did a little bit more, sped up the search, maybe to find the children, oh, they went this way. But thanks to that and what she did, she slowed down the possibility of them being found. So she did something selfless. She actually did something to help out the children, and she didn't think about her own survival, which signified she finally reverted back to what she once was. She realized that, there wasn't, darkness only. There is some light. And that's her option she chose at the end. So when she reeled that in, she actually kind of reverted back to what she once was. She gave up, but at the same time, she gave up in a different way. She gave up trying to survive. She gave up in a way to where she wants the children to survive at the cost of her own life. But okay, let's talk about the escape and Phil. So Phil, it's revealed that Phil, the little demon, wasn't in fact a demon after all. Now, let me talk about that, okay? So, obviously, I haven't been able to talk about it until this episode, but let me explain the reason why the community, at least the manga readers, call Phil a demon. And one of the big reasons is because Phil, he's always been in every single little location throughout the series. Even in the anime, you can see that. He always had this little, suspicious behavior that just seemed like he knew too much or he was aware of too many things and he just wasn't speaking about it at all. It was just really creepy and it made you wonder who he really was. Was he a spy for, Isabella, the grandma, or was he actually just someone very similar to Ray? And throughout, the slow, gradual build up to this finale, we didn't find out till the end, obviously, when he grabbed Isabella and then we found out that Emma told him everything. But there was also a color page that had Phil have a shadow that was shaped like a demon. You could go back and check it. I think it's Volume 2's cover or the second color page or whatever of The Promised Neverland that came out in the manga. But there is a shadow of Phil that is shaped like a demon. So that gave a lot of headway for theories to say that Phil was a demon, but obviously that's not the case. But that's to explain the whole reason why people called him a little demon, they didn't trust him, and why I did so as well. But Phil found out the truth, though, which basically lets us know that if for some reason Emma is not able to get back and save the children, Phil will have enough knowledge to have the go-ahead to potentially help out these children and escape as well. That's why he gave that information. It was kind of like a backup plan. If Emma is not able to do anything, at the very least Phil knows and he can pass on the legacy to the other kids before they can eventually be able to do something. So that's the point here. That's the main, significance to Phil as a character, that he's carrying on the legacy of what Emma, Norman, and Ray left behind. So there won't be a repeat of what's been happening for all of these years. So, the escape actually happened, obviously, and they managed to get out, which is a great thing to see, because, this is what the whole point of the story has been about, them being able to escape, but the question is, what is out there? Like, what awaits them out there in the woods, out in the world? Because that's something that we still don't know. We have no idea what to expect out there. Is it an alien-like world? Are they on even Earth itself? Are they on a different planet? Are they in a fantasy world? Is there humans still around? Is it ruled by demons? There's a lot of questions that you get with this finale, and it can lead into where, this story can go in any direction, which makes The Promised Neverland so great is because of that reason. But I think that's about it. It's a great finale. It wrapped up the main story. It's really good. It's really good. It didn't have everything perfect, like in terms of this anime adaptation of The Promised Neverland. There has been some flaws, but overall, it has been a really good and enjoyable anime adaptation, and I cannot wait to finally watch Season 2 when it eventually airs in 2020. So until then, I love you guys. Be safe. Stay healthy. Chibi out.